Video games are so cool. I know I always say that, but I don't think I'll ever get tired of being able to interact with another's art and be able to explore their worlds that they create. And this especially goes for indie projects. Something about randomly opening my email to see a release of a game with little to no description and just a simple download link is nothing short of exciting and intriguing to me. Like being back at stores, knowing nothing about the games you are going to get. And this is exactly what happened with a game known as GERASCOPIA, or GERASCOPIA? A game that I only learned about very recently, but shoot, I was intrigued. I only found out about GERASCOPIA as I was already following the ITCHIO for its creator, ROEB'S. This is due to a game that they made previously known as 52 Beat Up, which is this fighting game with a super intriguing idea of building your character throughout the match by use of cards that the two players draft after a round, with rounds themselves being very short to accommodate this. Honestly, the longer the game goes on, the faster the matches become, just because of how silly the builds get. The game is really fun, and it's so cool to be playing a mirror with someone and just seeing how different our characters end up being from one another and from how they started by the end of a match. Honestly, indie fighting games are just so fire, and someday y'all are just gonna let me talk about them, alright? You can't stop me. But let's focus on the main topic for now. GERASCOPIA. GERASCOPIA is a 2D horror platformer released back in May of 2023. I specifically found out about it due to its release on ITCHIO, which ROEB'S made recently in protest of Steam's new policy change allowing AI games. The game begins with the main character falling down into some sort of deep cave. I don't know if this character has a name. I guess it's Gera. That's what I'll call them. It doesn't matter for the sake of the game, but it does help with making the video easier, without just constantly referring to them as the main character. Moving around and learning the controls, we grab ourselves a torch, alongside this odd blue amulet, striking as it's the only colored thing in this world. And it's with these two items that we have to explore this new world and try to find a way to escape. And I think that's one of the most standout things for me when it comes to this game. The visuals. Sure, the areas can look pretty simple, with how much of the picture is just dark black to gray, but I feel like it makes the lighting more notable, alongside allowing attention to things that would be overlooked otherwise. Anything that's a brighter shade of gray or white stands out, catches the eye and gives a feeling of importance. Whether it be the impending danger of all the bright webs of the beginning area, or strange objects we're encouraged to interact with and ponder its purpose of. And I guess for the easy answer, yeah, it's just a cool vibe. But I'm definitely slouching to not mention the character animation. This shit is just straight up incredible. All of Gera's detailed movements, from how they run to climb, create such a lively character that you can really put yourself with, you know? You can really relate to being in this situation. And there's so many details, from seeing their reaction change when they realize they're being chased, raising an ear to try and detect where the sound is coming from, to all the different idle animations. Hell, there are even some rare animations that you probably won't even see, that honestly made me jump when they happened. Sound design wise, it's very fitting for a horror game. Maybe lower the sound effects and turn up the music in the options, because I remember checking out ROEB'S YouTube like, wait, this game had music? I actually do like the sound design. It's very quiet, with moments and sounds such as firing a gun absolutely piercing the world. Honestly, Firing the gun and getting my ears absolutely blasted by the sound it made kinda shocked me. In the same way that firing a gun would probably feel in real life, it's absurdly loud compared to anything else, which gives such a powerful, frightening feel to it that I think is really cool. Because as soon as you hear that loud, powerful sound, it's always followed by silence. And it's when things start to get loud in this game that chances are you're in danger. And it's such a minimal, uncaring danger. We aren't listening to some intense, scary music as we're being chased. It's just a subtle change that seeps into your mind that something is following you. And due to this game's emphasis on lighting, you don't know how far it is, or sometimes even what it is. Alongside this are these more, maybe a tad silly, sound effects randomly placed in. For example, while moving around and exploring the world, you'll sometimes hear footsteps growing louder in your direction. And no lie, for the first few times, this did get me. But by hour 3, I will admit it became kind of an eye roller. Though undeniably still breaking my focus for just a bit. As it is still a quiet cave, so any loud sound that echoes throughout it is bound to at least send a shock through me. Speaking upon the gameplay, I'm sure you all have a pretty decent grasp of how it works, but there's a lot more at play, and I mean a lot more, than at first glance. Talking for the platforming mechanics, we have a walk, a run, and a jump. Running is a bit of a confidence move, not really a game that you want to constantly run in, as running dequips your currently held item, and with this game's lighting, is more than less likely going to send you careening into danger, unless if you know what you're doing. Which I do like. It keeps things tense, slowly walking with the gun in hand, unsure of what lies behind the darkness, swapping to my torch just to lighten the way, for just a bit. It's hard to take horror games seriously when I can just run and dodge past enemies, but that's not something you can necessarily do in GERASCOPIA, at least at first. Really, any action other than walking will dequip your current item, whether it be crouching down, which sorta serves a purpose, besides being the way to pick up items, to jumping and climbing. This game has a very fast jump, in terms of both rising and falling, and there's no way to control it. Once you're off, it's already decided where you'll land. It's pretty stiff, but adds to the realism. It's not like this game is focused on any kind of precision platforming anyways, especially with the wall grab. Holding up while jumping against a wall will allow Gera to climb it repeatedly. No need to wall jump or anything, but you can do it. Alongside this, you can also cling against the wall, which is useful with the torch equipped, as otherwise you will be climbing in the dark, and once again, potentially to your death. It's a kind of odd fun with this sort of running and climbing. It has a very weighted movement to it, with how Gera stops for an instant before starting the next upwards jump. It feels nice despite being in contrast to so many other platforming games focused on tight movement. The inventory can be brought up with its own button. I do appreciate that controls can be rebinded, and the game even acknowledges this with its button prompts. The inventory can be used for a number of useful things, swapping or viewing items, checking how many bullets you currently have, to even reloading your gun, which is cool in its own way. At first, upon firing the weapon, it seems to have a pretty long cooldown before you can shoot it again. But it is possible to reload and fire it once more just by fumbling through the menu. These clumsy extra actions sort of imitating reloading in real life, taking your focus away from what's around you, and even stopping movement in order to complete this process. And I think that's kind of genius. We're not just pressing a button combo to reload or opening up a menu to combine our gun with our ammo. We need to bring up the menu and actually navigate to our ammo and pay attention at the bottom of the screen instead of what's in front of us. From here, we can also check out the various notes that we find. GERASCOPIA is a very exploration-focused game. The kind of game where a keen eye and good mental map will be the best weapon at your disposal if you have any hope of escaping alive. By exploring the map, we can find many secrets, notes from people once and still here, to areas that few have seen. But it's also undeniable that once you walk around enough, danger is soon to follow. While there aren't a ton of enemies, they're all equally dangerous. There's no health in this game. Once you're got, you're got. And while the gun may make you feel safe, more often than not, it can prove to be a risky maneuver that doesn't always pay off. That is, if you have any ammo in it to begin with. Enemies can be found randomly, so much so that even after a few hours of going through the same areas over and over, I was never 100% certain where the enemies were, having to simply rely on caution, alongside the camera helpfully panning when an enemy is in the vicinity. Besides random encounters, there are also scripted encounters that the player will deal with. I've heard these be called trial and error, and I can see where people are coming from. But when it came to the chase sequences, I passed them all the first try, so I don't know. Depending on your choices, death can be a very little consequence, or a very big consequence. I know that's rather vague, but this is the kind of game where I need to be, lest I ruin any of it. And let me tell ya, this game, yeah, it's pretty scary. I audibly yelped at least twice while playing this game. It's easy, right? Dark game, suddenly something comes running at you. But it really made me connect with the main character in that way, cautiously walking around with the gun, something popping out and just reacting by immediately lifting the gun, wide-eyed, and firing. Then silence. All I'm saying is that this moment right here made me tense up every time, unsure of what I was about to encounter on the other side. And if you play this game, you know what I mean. I've probably made it clear by how I'm talking, but this is very much so a game that forces and encourages the player to run through it several times. The kind of game that takes 8 minutes to beat, but has 10 hours worth of content. And the way it messes with you on future playthroughs is so interesting to me. And once again, this moment right here, brilliant. Until I understood how this game functioned underneath, it really kept me unsure of what would happen with these repeated runs. And those moments of going through the world once more, only for something different to happen, just when I was getting comfortable and understanding it, is what makes this game cool. GERASCOPIA has 7 endings. I've gotten quite a few, but I imagine most players will only get one. I think I can say this by now, that this is a fairly obtuse game. There's not too much to tell you what you should be doing, and getting some of the other endings require a good knowledge on the game and world, with at least some pretty decent skills, while also a knack for exploration. Maybe a bit too much. I think it's at the point where we're performing 2D wall humping in order to clip out of bounds and shit. Well, arguably really cool, and also where I kinda clock out. There's a lot of hidden and dope things about this world that most people definitely won't find, which I love that. But that doesn't mean it's not prone to being repetitive, at least for me. Like, I was ready and willing to spend 2 hours trying to get the true freedom ending, and while discovering what that entailed to do so was fun, experimenting with my actions to see how the game reacts, actually running through the game over and over to attempt so, maybe not. But also, yeah, skill issue. That spaghetti monster dirty owed me. But hey, call me determined, cause I slayed the hell out of my bracket demon, and yeah, it felt good. I think a lot of people love these games with obscure secrets that beg the player to do things that may potentially look like they're breaking the game to do so. But even despite that, I still think this game is worth a playthrough just to get 1 or 2 endings, because I think it delivers enough to create a satisfying experience just from that. I think it's definitely a game that has a lot of value to going into it with no knowledge of anything, and coming out with what you discover from it, which is why I'm being so vague, and why I'm going to wrap up the video here. Because I say, give this game a try. It's short if you're looking for a quick game to play for the day, and long if you want to dig in and find all that it has to hide. I won't lie, I know I've only scratched the surface of what this game is truly holding, that there's so much more to this game that I'll never see, and I'm gonna be honest, that's pretty rad. So check this game out on itch.io or Steam. I'm pretty sure the itch.io version is just the Steam version, but available free. So y'all can decide what you want to do, but yeah, I would recommend checking out ROEB and their work. But for now, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Saltris, Kenchiago, thanks for still sticking with me, y'all, despite really feeling like I'm not doing anything as of late, but I'm trying. I swear I'm doing things. I just know I can do so much more. But thanks for sticking with me, y'all.